I have been a busy boy in both real life and on stream, so that means I've finished a metric crap ton of stream games, which I'll talk about in just a moment, but it also means that the games I've been playing in my free time, like Xenoblade and Death's Door and Yooka-Laylee, still after all these weeks sit in my now playing list unfinished. But let's not dwell on that, hopefully I'll find some time to get them done soon, and let's talk about the things I did finish instead. First, I finally did a full playthrough of Shatterhand on the NES. It's a game I've played a fair bit before, but once the deaths started piling up, I generally just give up and not touch it for long periods of time. Finally though, I have sat down and done a full playthrough, and I really enjoyed it. It's challenging, but the levels aren't all that long, and the checkpoints are pretty generous, so while there's a little bit of trial and error and rote learning to deal with, it doesn't take all that much time to get the skills down to eventually just blast through a stage. And once you do get it down pat, it is very satisfying. The final boss also is surprisingly a complete joke that you can kill just by crouching in his face and punching him in the balls. And the hardest guy is surprisingly some weeb on an elevator that throws insanely fast projectiles that you have to dodge while avoiding turning gears on a scrolling stage. That's kind of annoying, but overall I really enjoyed playing that game. After that, I beat Kabuki Quantum Fighter, which is pretty crap if I'm going to be honest with you. It's not offensive to the point of getting completely tilted while playing. It's just one of those games where after a few deaths, you just kind of want to lean back in your chair and, let out a big sigh, turn off the game and never look back. I did not do that, and I did beat it, and I was left completely unsatisfied. After I beat that one, I then played through Turtles 3: The Manhattan Project, which is a side-scrolling beat-em-up, which is kind of cool, I guess. I've never been a big fan of the Ninja Turtles, even as a kid, so the brand power that the game may have had on fans of the franchise back in the day wouldn't have landed then, and it doesn't land now. Playing it in 2023 as someone who is completely indifferent to the franchise just makes me wish I was playing something better, like Double Dragon 2, or Golden Axe, or Final Fight, or Fighting Force, or Die Hard Arcade, or Dynamite Cop, or Tekken 3 Force Mode, or The Bouncer, Anyway, after that I beat the OG Legend of Zelda, which I found to be a very fun experience that still holds up, at least for me, to this day. I died a whole bunch at the beginning, but that's more of a me problem than the game's problem, and once I got used to that kind of old NES stiffness, I was doing just fine. The last two dungeons that you do are kind of annoying, but nothing too difficult. But I have no idea how you're supposed to find some of that stuff in this game without a guide. Like, in current day, it's not an issue, since you can just Google search, and it will yield 1,000 different guides written by thousands of different people. So if you've not played OG Zelda, and you want to see where its roots are, then take your pick from one of those guides and have a grand old time. I mean, it is dangerous to go alone, after all. And then came this video's namesake, the worst game I have ever played in my entire life, Holy Diver. Now, when I rate games, I try to avoid the two extremes of the spectrum, the 10s and the 0s. As much as I absolutely adore something like Hotline Miami or Lisa the Painful, for example, there are certain aspects to those games that annoy me, so I give them, 9s. Or whatever, and then as much as I hate games like Outlast 2 or, let's say, Crosscode, I can understand the appeal of them, and there are a couple of redeeming qualities here and there. So, I put them in the kind of 1 to 3 sort of area. Anyway, Holy Diver, I can say, honestly, without any hyperbole, is a straight 0 out of 10. No redeeming qualities to it at all. It controls like shit, the levels are designed like shit, it looks like shit, it runs like shit. Everything about it is just complete shit. For now, I'll leave it at that, since these are quickfire blogs about things I played recently. But mark my words, one day I'm going to do a video essay. Sorry, no, a video dissertation about how much this game sucks and can lick my nuts. I cleansed my palate after that shitfest with Gunsmoke, a Western-style shmup made by Capcom that is very good. A little hard on the fingers since you have to mash the button to fire bullets, but nothing an auto-fire pad can't handle. Not really much to say outside of that. And the last NES game that I beat recently was something called Nazo no Murasame-jo, or The Mystery of Murasame Castle, on the Famicom Disk System. It sort of looks and plays a bit like OG Zelda, but it's a bit more arcadey in its presentation. There are 5 levels in the game. The first 3 are very fun, and then the last 2 go way overboard with the difficulty, and it devolves into a frustrating mess. The main character controls a bit like Link, sort of on a grid, and you can attack in the cardinal directions, but the enemies don't have that limitation and can just come from every which way at really high speeds, and it's basically impossible to deal with all the shit that's on screen at any one time. I would say it's worth giving a go if you've never heard of it. It's an interesting curio on a system I don't really hear a lot of people talking about, but just switch it off when the going gets tough. I wouldn't say it's particularly worth spending time to, get good at. And then the last thing I beat this week was Duke Nukem, the old side-scrolling DOS one, which I thought was pretty fun. The game's so basic in design that there's not an awful lot to say, but, if you just want to explore some maze-like stages and shoot some robots to some old DOS-ass beeps and boops, then, you can count on the Duke, I suppose. I also started playing Duke Nukem 2, which is really just more of the same thing, but the graphics are much more advanced and the sound effects are way better. I use the word advanced for the graphics instead of better, because sure, the graphics do quote-unquote look better, but I find them to be much harder on the eyes and a bit muddy. It's hard to make things out sometimes. Anyway, I like it either way, and I'm looking forward to playing more of it on stream some more in the near future, which you should definitely check out, links in the description. Anyway, that's all for me this week. Hopefully I'll have something more modern to discuss next time. Peace!